Hello, 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 everybody, man. This is the Good Ground Podcast. I am your host, Mr. James Smalls. And for those who don't know, the Good Ground Podcast is a platform dedicated to uplift, inspire, and motivate listeners to till, cultivate spiritual growth and personal development. So no matter what shape you find your heart, whether it neglected, hard, thorny, we are all in process and we are all becoming good ground. Man, I have the pleasure of having, man, one of the most solid guys I've met in ministry, man. Really, really, really good guy, man. Really reliable brother. Man, he's a husband. He's a father. He is a pastor. Y'all, please give it up for my brother, Pastor Dorian from Detroit, Michigan. What's up, man?
What's going down, family, man? What's happening?
Man. Oh, man, same old down here. Just trying to make it happen, like you say, just maintaining, man.
That's the name of the game.
Yeah, man, glad, God is keeping us and my family's well. How's the family, man?
Man, they're loud, they're messy. They break things, but 5 kids, 10 years old and under, that's what they're supposed to do. So
everybody's you got a basketball team.
Yes, sir. 3 girls, 2 boys, 10-year-old, 9-year-old, 6 or 7-year-old twins. What are they? They'll be 7 in just a few weeks. So, and then my youngest is 4. So yeah, man, we deep and been at the homeschooling, so
yeah. How's that going?
Man, it's crazy. It's crazy. but the wild thing about it is, man, I can't imagine sending them away from me all day again.
Man,
the idea of them leaving me for 6 or 7 hours a day. I'm struggling with the idea of that, but man, they tearing my house to shreds being all day.
Man, I wish I could give you some pictures of what my house looks like right now. It is ridiculous. It was funny as we cannot keep food in the house. You know what I mean?
Man, my wife go to Sam's Club or Costco, 2-3 times a week. It's madness.
Man, that's crazy. That's crazy, man. I love it. I'm glad everybody's safe and doing well. How's Pops, man?
Man, Pops is doing good. As a matter of fact, right before we jumped on, he popped his head in my office because I'm down here at the church and we wrapped for a taste. But Pops is doing well. Bishop is, him. He's always maintaining. He's doing well.
Good, man. Please send our love, man, and well wishes to Bishop and Lady Cass, man.
Indeed.
So let's get right into it, man.
Okay.
Ever since I met you earlier in the 2000s, I guess we could say.
Yeah.
You came to town to preach for a conference for us, man. And ever since then, man, we've had a really awesome rapport.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to talk to you today because you are a pastor. You're a young pastor. You know what I mean? And I wanted to talk to you about the process getting there.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding who you were, understanding your call, in how you got to this point that you are now.
Sure.
So, man, I want you to just kind of give us some background on you getting to this point. And and I say that for a reason because I'm going to tell you why I asked you to do this topic in a second. So go ahead.
Okay. Wow. So that's a big question. So I'll give the condensed version.
Okay.
And then any clarification, any further detail you want me to go into, I will. So I was raised most of my life. My father was an evangelist. He was not a pastor, and he traveled all over the country, left and right. And I'm the 5th of 6 kids. And so I grew up with an evangelist, a preacher as a father, not a pastor. But everywhere we went, my siblings are all extremely brilliant people. And I don't say that just because they're my brothers and sisters, but
right.
They're genuinely,
I've met a couple. They are brilliant.
they're genuinely brilliant, sharp people. And I was the quiet one in the family. And I'm the quiet one, easygoing, and we would go places and people would prophesy to my brothers and sisters left and right. Every time we get done with a service, my dad preached, somebody come out the pulpit and prophesy to one of my brothers and sisters. And God is my witness. I never once in my life did I get a single word of prophecy regarding ministry, regarding a call on my life, anything. And I don't say that as hurt me, I was fine because I'm very much an introvert, very much like I don't want to have anything to say. And I saw the other side of ministry. Most people see it from, watching somebody in the pulpit and it looks glamorous, but I saw it from, from the other side, and it wasn't anything that I, had any interest in doing or being at the time. But long story short, I got to college, my freshman year in college. I had zero idea of having any aptitude to public speaking, preaching, anything like that.
Wow.
But the director of multicultural affairs was one of my professors in my freshman year in college. One of those random, gen ed courses, like society and culture or something like that. And I'm just raising my hand in class, answering questions. And at the end of the semester, he calls me to his office and says, "Hey, listen, we have an end of the year multicultural affairs awards banquet, and I want you to be my freshman speaker." And I'm like, "Why would I? Me? What?" He's like, "Don't worry about it. Just write a speech out for me and come back to me and read it. Just 5 minutes." And I said, "Oh, okay." And I'll never forget, I went, sat down, and like these words just poured out of me, man.
Wow, man.
It just like it shocked me how much I had to say.
Wow.
And I'll never forget, I went back to his office and I read to him what I had written, and he just was smiling while I was writing. And he said, "That's it. Don't change a word. Don't change a word." And then he said I said, "Perfect." I walked out of the office, and he said to somebody else in the office, he wasn't talking to me, but somebody else in his office as I was leaving, "That boy is going to be a preacher." First time I ever heard those words. And it was like a bolt of lightning struck me when he said those words about me. Not a saved man, nothing to do with church at all. First person that ever spoke those words over me or to me or about me, at least in my presence. And it was life-changing from there. And, again, I'm long-winded, as y'all know, so I could keep going. But that honestly was the moment that I consciously recognized, wow, maybe there is something God wants me to do.
So no indication before that point. You didn't do sermons at the baby Bible school or
No.
Wow.
So none at all. My father, my parents weren't like, "Oh, that little preacher." I'm gonna tell you now, of course, in retrospect, hindsight is 2020. You start looking at things and seeing, okay, well, that does make sense. So I told you my father was an evangelist. I always wanted to go with him. Like, I was just the one kid out of my family that would ask my dad, "Can I go with you?" Nobody else wanted, nobody wants, when you're a kid, wants to go to church extra times, what I mean? So, but me, I would just always just want to go. And this is back before they did preachers real fancy, and put them in first class and nice hotels. We would drive all over the country. I'd be sleeping in, mother of the church, spare bedroom, that kind of thing, all over the country with my dad. And I just wanted to go. And so that's one of the things you kind of look back on, that I saw the work from a very different vantage point as a kid. And I just had a desire to go along as a kid.
Man, that's awesome, man. So your dad would let you go. You would pack up and he would say, "Yeah, come on."
Yep. He'd say, "Come on back." And I'll never forget, my very first time flying on a plane was to an engagement he had in Chicago. And I never forget, Southwest had like this buddy pass thing. Now this is back in the 80s, so this is a long time ago. So he flew, and I was able to fly free with him, and it was like the best thing in the world. I got to leave school early to get on the plane with my dad to go to a preaching engagement. So if I could, he'd let me come with him.
Man, that is phenomenal.
I was his little armor bearer. I carry his bags and all that kind of stuff before they called him armor bearer.
And I know you just talked about, when it all came kind of full circle for you, but what were your plans, man? Like what did you want to do with your life as opposed to being called to the ministry? Because I think we all have our own plans in mind, and the saying, if you want to make God laugh, tell him you got a plan.
Indeed. So it's a funny thing though. Like, after that brother, his name is Dr. Terry Lindsay. I never forget him. He has such a profound impact on my life for more reasons than just that moment, but that moment alone was enough. But to be honest, I told you, I had no idea or no plans on being a preacher, and I didn't want to be one. And to be quite honest, like I did my best to shake that moment out of my head immediately.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
went to try to live as crazy as I could in college to try to like shake the idea. Oh,
You tried to shake
you think I'm gonna be a preacher? I'm gonna show you
it.
that
Yeah.
I'm no preacher, right? But
Doing all kind of anti-preacher stuff.
yeah, all sorts of stuff. But I was studying biology and organic chemistry.
Whoa.
I was
Okay.
going to be a dentist. That was my intent. I,
Oh,
I
wow.
I didn't have like some grand ambition, but I was going to be a dentist, finish school, get married. I wanted to have a lot of kids, and like that was my plan. Church, I was going to be a faithful tithing member. That was going to be the full extent of my work in church. You know, I was going to be one of those people that could come late and leave right as soon as service dismissed. I was always jealous of those folks. Like you just, as soon as we say amen, you can get in your car and
Oh
go home.
yeah.
I
Trust
was
me.
going to be one of those. That was my aspiration for church. But
Oh yeah.
again, I just wanted to be a dentist and have a life, that seemed to be free from the struggles of ministry.
Indeed. I hear you. I hear you, man. And so the reason why I asked, man, I was actually I had an opportunity to, check Lamb out. And if for those who don't know, Dorian is the pastor of Life Application Ministries in Warren, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And so being quarantined and locked down, however you want to say it, I say we're being kept.
Yes, sir.
We're being protected. And so, man, I got an opportunity to chime in and listen a little before our service started, man. And you were talking about something. You were saying how back in the day when Bishop and First Lady Cass would, go on fast, you guys would go on fast too. And you were talking about in the sermon just how, at 6 years old you were fasting, you were praying. I was like, well, and then that let the light bulb go off in my head. Was like, well, this sounds like someone who knew what his call was very, very early.
Sure.
And it sounds to me that you didn't actually.
No, so here's the thing, and I think, and I'm so glad you're asking that, because I think we get it. We in a lot of instances we get the process backwards.
Mm-hmm.
We believe like we have this idea of something grand we want to do for God, and then we try to organize our lives around doing and being that. But what I did know and what was implanted in me from a young age, and what you're talking about, right? Like I was doing 3 day, 3 day, no food, no water, straight up 3 day fast in the 6th grade. Like my parents were like animals, bro. Like we were not playing games. You know what I mean? Like with whatever the church were doing, whatever the adults were doing, that's what I was doing, and my brothers and sisters were doing as children. And what I understood firmly, and I think this is actually one of the benefits that I have in terms of my grounding as it pertains to ministry and even in my lifestyle, because I pride myself on being someone that lives a lifestyle that agrees with what I preach. I pride myself on that. But what I was taught and what was implanted in me was the disciplines and the seriousness of living for God, even outside the idea of because you're going to do something on the stage, right? It was because this is what believers, this is what saints do. And you will be taught how to be a frontline saint, a frontline soldier. Absolutely. Like there's no excuse. And it was not in the context because you're going to have to go in front of anybody, other than because this is what you owe to God.
Yeah,
and that to me, I think in our modern times where the stage is so prevalent, right? Like you can just go live and, it's easy to get on the stage.
Yes.
We define the stage first and then hope we can create a life that will make the stage happen, man, when it's supposed to be the other way around.
Yes. That makes complete sense, man. And that leads me to, kind of ask, where was that moment? What was that moment other than, the public speaking engagement that you had? That was kind of, man's approval, so to say.
Sure.
When did you feel the pull of God?
Yeah.
Okay, Dorian, you're going to do this. You know?
Yeah. So and it's funny because the way the story works, and you know me, brother, like I'm a regular dude. Like I'm not one of these strange, spooky cats, you know, like I'm hearing voices and stuff, you know, when I when I walk with God, but it's oddly enough. So my 4 years of college, like I said, I'm not, this whole idea of preaching isn't like I'm going to do everything I can to not do that. But I was doing some public speaking. And again, I was involved with the multicultural affairs. I had at that point at least recognized, okay, I have a gift of public speaking, right? Okay. That was up to that point. I'm like, okay, I had a gift of public speaking. So maybe I can find a way to do something with that. But I'm no preacher, not carrying no Bible, not elder, minister, so-and-so. That's like, no, right? It's not going to higher education. But I graduated from college, and my sister, her name is Trina. She's our youth pastor, and we were having for LAM our very first youth Sunday. And she's like, hey, listen, Dorian, can you be our youth Sunday speaker? And now this is youth pastors. This is why having the right people in your life is so important. Absolutely. So because she knew if she asked me to preach, I would have said never. Like, why would you even call me? Get off my phone, right? So she's like, listen, I just need you to give a speech. I need you to give a speech on Sunday. No preaching, just, I want you to inspire the kids. You just graduated college. She said, but I do have this is our scripture, our theme. I'll never forget, it was out of Lamentations, his mercies are new every morning, right? So she said, this is just our theme scripture, just FYI, but you come give a speech. And I'll never forget, man, James, I went to the house and I'm going to write a speech. But I said, well, let me look at the scripture and, just at least try to be on topic, man. And I can't describe it. So there's a movie, it's called, it's with Jim Carrey and Morgan Freeman. What's the name of it? When he,
Almighty.
Bruce Almighty.
Bruce Almighty.
There's a scene in Bruce Almighty where Jim Carrey is in the place of God and he starts hearing all the prayers that are being prayed at one time.
Wow.
And it's like a million voices happening in his head at one time. That's the closest thing I can describe to what started happening to me in that moment. And like I said, I'm not a spooky, weird dude. I'm not this God told me, God said to me, God was talking to me last night kind of guy. But this is what it was like a million voices trying to fit in my head at one time. God was literally talking to me, but it was like he was trying to fit in my head. Yeah. And it was too much. It didn't feel good. It was so overwhelming that I literally thought I was getting ready to lose my mind. And I was still living with my parents at the time. And I was saying, listen, I need you to leave me alone. I'm not doing this. And I'm having this out loud conversation with God. Like, I'm chill. I'm like, leave me alone. I'm just going to write a speech. I'm not doing this. And I said, well, listen, I'm not living as crazy as I used to live, but I still know where a few of those places are. And I'm going to listen. If you don't leave me alone, I'm going to go some places to make you leave me alone. And it was like the volume just got even louder. And this is the middle of the night. I jumped out of the bed, and God is my witness. As one of my friends say, God hates a liar. I jumped out of the bed and out loud said, okay. I'll do whatever you want me to do. I'll do it if you just stop this. If you just leave me alone, whatever this is, stop it and I'll do it. Okay. And literally like the volume turned down. And that was the moment I had to acknowledge God, like, okay, you call me to the ministry, what you want me to do, I'll do it. I was working at church, but preaching, that was the moment I had to say, okay, to preaching.
Wow, man, that is a powerful, powerful story, man. So you accepted the call, just your sister kind of tricked you into it.
Tricked me into it, bro. Tricked me into it. I'm still mad at her. Just a long time. I'm still mad at her. Like, if maybe she would have never done that, I would have been able to skate.
So you never, coming from a family with so many talented, people in ministry gifts, you never felt pressured or pushed from, your father or your mother or anybody in the family. Never felt a push or anything.
No, and actually, I believe it was because I had a family of so many gifted people It was like there was 6 of us. It was my sister was the youth pastor. My other sister was it was over the music department. My other brother Andre, the finances. Like they didn't need me. You know what I mean? Like things were fine. So I think that was a part of it that played into it. Like I said, literally every person in my family are like brings something phenomenal to the table where it didn't seem absolutely necessary.
Wow.
For me.
That would blow your mind that, out of 6, God called me.
Man, it's deep. It still blows my mind to this day. I still every now and then think, man, maybe we got this wrong. Maybe it should have been one of my brothers, my sister, because that still blows my mind because I do think very highly of my siblings. Yes. So it still blows my mind to this day because I believe I'm the least qualified out of all my siblings.
What makes you say that?
I think you would, and I, because I don't want to give it the impression that I'm just hyping my siblings up, right? But if you met them, you would know, like, genuinely. You met 2 of them. You met Dustin and Andre, right?
Dustin and Andre.
Yeah, because they came down to Atlanta with me, right? And Dustin, I could just talk about Dustin and Andre. Like I don't even have to get into the others. Like Dustin and Andre alone, those 2 just are genuinely brilliant, smart, charismatic people. They're leaders everywhere they go. They make a lot of money. They got beautiful families. Educate, like they check every box, right? So if I was picking, it wouldn't even be close. It wouldn't even be close. I'd be their right hand man. Don't get me wrong, but so it still blows my mind to this day, and I have to believe that it's according to God's plan.
That's phenomenal, man. Yeah, shout out to Dustin and Andre. Man.
Yeah, those are my guys, man.
Good brothers, man. Good brothers. Can't wait to fellowship with you guys again.
Indeed.
So now that you've accepted it, guys chased you down, locked you down. Talk about the development, the work that it took to get to, this point even, because I know it's a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of study, a lot of sacrifice.
Yes, sir.
And then you cannot have a call this heavy without it costing something. So I want you to talk about the work, the nights that sit up and study, the times where you didn't understand. Talk about getting through that to get to the point where you are now.
Sure. So you're using the right word, and the right word there is work. Yeah. And this is, I think, what a lot of people get mixed up about identifying their call.
Yeah.
Is Paul in 1 Timothy 3:1 says, "This is a true saying: if a man desire the office of a bishop or a pastor, he desireth a good work."
Good work.
A good work. Now, I think this is the thing that you got to understand about a call is: are you attracted to the stage or to the finished product, or are you attracted to the work?
Yeah,
that's the delineation you have to make. Like, because there's a lot of things that people do that it looks like it would be fun to do that. You know what I mean? Like that looks like that'd be not fun to do. Like I wouldn't mind doing that.
Oh, for sure.
But that's what you see on the stage. Are you attracted to the work it takes to get to the stage? That's one of the things that I think that we need to start really pushing, especially young people, to determine what are you attracted to. Yes, preaching in front of a 1,000 people and they shouting and saying amen. Like, oh yeah, that looks cool. Like I get it.
Right.
But are you? But that doesn't, because that looks attractive to you, does not say that that's your call. The work determines, are you attracted to that work? The work of, like you say, prayer, fasting, studying your scriptures. The hardest part, and I could talk about this, is surrendering your identity. Surrendering and submitting your identity to sometimes strangers. That's a whole other conversation. The sacrifice it takes, the study that it takes, the discipline that it takes, the spotlight and scrutiny, not on your preaching, but on your conduct. Yes. Like, are you attracted to that work?
Right.
Are you attracted to discipling people and being on the phone at 3:00 in the morning? And I'm not talking about when anybody's going to give you an offering or say amen, but you're the person that, like, are you attracted to the work?
Yes.
And I'm not saying, does that work look fun, but does that work call you? that I think is how I started developing, because I didn't immediately go from that moment to like, okay, you're getting ready to pastor and preach, because my pops ain't cut like that in the least bit. And like I said, it was kind of a development from me liking to be alone, in the car, in the office in the back. But then from there, I did everything that there is to do at church. I've done it. I've sung in the choir. I've worked in the youth department. I've been the church janitor, like legitimately. I was the church janitor. Like whatever there was to do at church, I did it, and I concerned myself. And it was kind of a crazy thing. For the moment I said, okay, what changed was not like, okay, God started giving me all these messages to preach. Now, when I came to church, I saw all the things that were undone or needed to be done. Like I couldn't turn that lens off now. And the people at LAM will tell you, because I had this reputation, and this was all the way until I actually became pastor, started preaching regularly. I was the associate pastor. I preached whenever my dad wasn't there. But when my dad was there, I sat in the back. Like I didn't sit in some front seat, because I needed to see. I wanted to see everything that was happening. I wanted to be able to help if something was going wrong, or if someone wasn't doing a part of their job the right way. I wanted to be able to assist with that, whether that was the parking lot, an usher, the sound. I hated sitting in the front, because we don't have pulpit furniture, so we sit on the front row. So my back would be to everything. And I still hate it to this day, because I like the work that's happening when we're trying to get people into the presence of God is what I was attracted to, not the front row, but being able to get my hands on the work and ensure that the process, the moment provided what was necessary for people to enter the presence of God and hear the gospel. So the work immediately attracted me. The preaching, like that, came later down the road.
The work attracted you.
The work, a person that desires the office of a bishop, a pastor, an elder, a preacher, a prophet, whatever the work, what you desire is a good work.
Yes.
Not a good message, not a good job, not a good position, but he clarifies what they really desire is the work that it takes.
Yeah. And I see that now that you say that, I can see it even in our pastor and our apostle. He'll do anything and everything it takes.
It's the work, man.
Make it well. You know what I mean? If he sees trash on the ground, he's gonna go out in the parking lot and pick it up. If he is a worker.
Indeed.
And you saying that lets me know what it's about. It's about the work. It's not about the glamour. And I think that so many people have, especially young people nowadays, they are so attracted to the glamour and the neon lights. And I got this graphic behind me, and I'm really an awesome motivational speaker, to be honest with you, because I have in mind the work, man. And so you've been doing the work for how long now? How long have you been the pastor of LAM?
So I was ordained as a pastor and as the associate pastor at LAM. Man, that was back in 2008. And I actually began doing the work of the senior pastor, the lead pastor. Bishop is, he the bishop of the house. I'm the lead pastor. Gosh, it's been about 3 years now. Yeah. I started doing the regular preaching, handling the regular preaching duties about 5 years ago, and then running the staff, the counseling, and all of that. And then studying the vision and strategy for each year. It's been about 3 years now.
Phenomenal, man. One of the things that I admire about you in particular, I think the first time you came to Atlanta to preach, we had some time to chill out and break bread after service, and we were having a conversation at the table. I don't know if you remember this, man.
we was real great. We was silly back then, man. Too. We was wilding out. We was tripping.
But actually, a serious moment in the conversation, man. And we were having a conversation. I think the conversation shifted to talk about sin. We were talking about sin and how we didn't like this, that, and the other, and I couldn't see myself, just acting, real pious and deep.
Yeah.
And I remember saying something to the effect of, man, I do not like that. I said, like that, right? And you were sitting on the far end of the table, and you said this with such conviction. You said, man, James, you said that you didn't like that. He said, man, as who we are, you said you should despise that. Man, I went, oh man, I ain't there yet. Let me know, man, that you had a real hold on what God had called you to do. And I know, man, that it's for other people listening, man, they think that it's a glamorous job. They think that it's you reap a lot of monetary things, or you get a lot of accolades, and you're championed and you're celebrated. That's not always the case, man.
No, sir.
That's not always the case. And I want you to talk about the cost of the call, the cost of the oil, the cost of you being the pastor of Lamb, and what it cost you.
Yeah, man. And I remember the conversation. I don't remember those words exactly, but I'm gonna tell you something, man. So, because when I first came down to Atlanta the first time, I was single. I wasn't married. I didn't have any kids. I was an animal, bro. Like I when you talk about somebody that I was not playing any games back then, man. No games, man, at all. Like I was like John the Baptist, man. It's one of those things. Like I had a lot of zeal, and one of the things, the cost, and I alluded to it. We talked about it a little bit earlier, that what was instilled in me by my parents, my mother and my father. We talk about fasting and with working at church, and that sacrifice is what was instilled in me. Wasn't about preaching or some specific call to ministry, but I was born and bred to pay the cost. Like that I think, if nothing else, because a lot of people are surprised. They're like, I'm sure Bishop was like calling you mini preacher while you were a kid, and I'm like, no, that wasn't that because it, for my father, it had nothing to do with that. It was, can you pay the cost? That's the first and foremost thing when it comes to walking in your calling and serving God's people is can you pay the cost? And by cost, I mean having the discipline of life. If nothing else, first and foremost, if you go and read the New Testament and Paul, the qualifications for a pastor, for an elder, for a deacon, these are things. It's not like once they become a deacon, then they must do these things. They already have had to have a life in order before they could even be considered for the call.
Yes.
That's why I said we get this backwards, like, like you get called and all of a sudden you start doing these things. No, you have to have a life of discipline prior. But the cost, I'm gonna tell you something, man. And I think it's a lot of pastors talk about this in a negative sense, but I think to do this well, you have to welcome it to a certain degree. One of the things that's challenging for me, and again, every pastor, minister is different. One of the things that's challenging for me is I am definitely an introvert. Like I would rather be by myself. Right. I don't like and it's shocking to people. They're like, no way. I'm like, yes, I'm faking. Anytime you see me out, when I'm preaching, when I'm fellowshipping, when I'm faking, I would rather be at home I'm a homebody, and I'd rather read a book than have a conversation. Wow. Right.
Yeah.
So to surrender your preferences to the call. And I think we get that. Like that to me is the biggest cost, is my preferences are secondary to the call that's on my life. What I like, what I would rather be doing, when I would rather be doing it is not the issue. What God is requiring of me is what is necessary. And a part of that you have to welcome, because you can become bitter if you don't welcome that as a part of your call, because it can seem unfair that everybody else gets to do what they want to do, what they like to do, and you got to do what you must do. And having a spotlight and scrutiny on your life
Yeah.
It's tough. My kids and my wife, the people watch us. And they don't just watch me when I'm in the pulpit and then I get done and then they like stop watching me. They watch everything that I do. They watch every facial expression my wife makes. They watch anytime my children misbehave. Like, man, that costs to constantly be under scrutiny. It costs to not be able to wear your scars outwardly. It costs to not be able to, when you're bleeding, to have to bind up your wounds in the office and go out and encourage others while you're bleeding. And then and then have them give you negative feedback if you didn't do a good enough job encouraging them. You know what I mean? Like, to me, that I could go on because I don't want to give it a sob story because God gives grace. But I think that's one of the challenging things too, is to not be able to wear your wounds, publicly, because a lot of people couldn't handle seeing your wounds and then allowing you to minister to them. That's why I appreciate men and women that have been graced. We call them armor bearers, whatever you want to call it, to witness to, minister to, and see your wounds, and then still see you as a man of God, and still allow you to minister to them. So, but the disciplines to do your vocation well, to study, and I have a full-time job. I'm not a full-time pastor, so I work and have 5 kids, and to get done with work, dinner, play with the kids, help with homework, and then sit down to study and read, like that discipline, man, that's tough. And the Pistons aren't doing too much, but the game is on.
The Hawks aren't either, but we all right. We all right. We're gonna be all right.
Y'all at least got Trey. Y'all got somebody worth watching.
Yeah, we have hope. I don't know what y'all got.
Let's not get derailed, brother, because this whole conversation gonna go sideways. Listen, I can dog the Pistons. You can't.
Okay,
they're mine.
Fine. Yeah, I got you.
That to me.
I got you. My team's moving in the right direction. I just want you to know that.
Yeah, man. But that discipline to handle your craft well, that's a separate conversation.
Yes.
Because that is one thing I don't feel is real prevalent these days is a lot of people that respect the craft, of preaching and studying and being well read. They would rather have a clever quip, like if they can have a clever saying, but they don't have doctrine. They don't, have a solid handle on the word to be able to instruct someone in righteousness and holiness. But they have a clever saying that makes for a good IG post.
Yeah, I heard someone say that the church is the only place where you can do your job bad and keep your job.
brother, I'm gonna say that in my next staff meeting when I'm like, that's over here, somebody getting fired. No, I'm just playing. But I'm not playing.
That's funny, man. Have you ever had a moment where you despised the call? Why did you call me to do this? This is too much. It's too heavy for me. Because there are a lot of people who run from it because they don't want to discipline themselves through the work, like you said. Yeah. So they'll end up, despising it or trying to neglect it or waiting until they turn 85 to say, I'm going to yield to this now. Have you ever had a moment where you just said, I'm going to throw in the towel, I'm going to go be a dentist again, I'm just going to raise my family, love my wife, and I'm just going to be regular, be normal, be just Brother Dorian in the back of the church again?
That thoughts, I'm going to be honest, you're my brother, so you family. We known each other too long for me to fake. I think the idea of quitting and just being a regular member, like I don't ever consider walking away from God, but walking away from pastoring and preaching and being in front, I think about that all the time.
Wow.
All the time.
Wow.
And I there may be some pastors and people out there that never crosses their mind, but I'm being honest, I consider that all the time. Like it would be a much easier and simpler life if I could just be saved, be in my family, be saved. Like I said, come to church, we gonna participate. I am a giver, I'm a tithe, so the pastor gonna love me. I ain't gonna cause no trouble, and we gonna go home. That thought crosses my mind all the time, and not even in the context of like I despise this call, but when you run up against the constant friction, because pastoring and working in ministry is tough on two ends. You got people and you got the devil, and sometimes you can't tell which one you wrestling. at any given moment. You don't know if it's just a person or Satan himself, because people in their, in their various states, it's hard to differentiate between them. So it's just there is quite a lot of friction that comes and spiritual warfare that comes from working in ministry, especially when you really care. Now, like I said, when you really care about the work and the results of the work, and not just having had a chance to preach, I think about quitting or just like doing something else all the time. But I'll be honest, when you talk about despising, like, why did you call me to do this? It was early on in me being the pastor. And there were a couple serious issues going on in the church and in my family, like my extended family. Okay. And without getting into too much detail, I remember at a certain point, I felt so frustrated, because it's a gift and a curse. When you have people that really respect their pastor, they look up to their pastor, they look to their pastor for help and advice, but it can be overwhelming for them to expect you to be able to fix everything. And having people that I loved and cared about dearly, very frustrated and dependent and expecting me to be able to fix these problems that had been years and years in the making, that was legitimately causing a lot of pain and grief and disruption. And I couldn't just fix it. And I was so angry at God for putting me in a position to be the one that they were coming to. I was angry at them for expecting me. Like, why would you? I'm still me. Like, y'all know me all my life. Why did y'all think all of a sudden from one day to the next I would be able to just supernaturally fix? Yes. And I was angry at God for putting me there. I was angry at the people around me for having that kind of what I felt like was unrealistic expectation of me. And that was probably the angriest I've been when it came to ministry. Yeah. Because it was like, I'm in a no-win situation here. And it was a burden that was too heavy for me. Like, not only could I not fix it, I couldn't put it down because it mattered to me. It was people I cared about. It was people close to me. And it was that I was angry for a little while about that. God had to help me with that.
Wow, man. The one thing that I wanted to ask you concerning that is, when you look at it now, you look back on it. You've been pastoring, a little while now. What brings you the most joy in you doing the work?
Sure. That's a great question. And it's interesting because most people don't ask that question. I get asked the question, what's the hardest part, or, what do I need to do in order to be prepared? But very few people ask me the question of what's the biggest joy you get from it. And it's amazing because it's very seldom what you think it is. And I'll never forget, I had a young minister. Well, he wasn't a minister at the time. He was a friend of mine. He was a little bit younger than me. And he called me in tears because he felt like God was calling him to the ministry and he didn't want to do it. He had this life that he had planned for himself. And matter of fact, you guys know him. He's come to High Point, Minister Tim Hill. He's come. Yeah, Tim Hill. He called me when God was calling him to the ministry. Wow. I never forget, he was in tears, like, I don't want to do this. I'm a pilot. I got this career laid out for me. I know what I want to do, what's going to make me happy. And I never forget telling him this, that God put the taste buds on our tongue. He knows what we like and what will make us happy more than we do. Like, for many of us, we haven't even tasted our favorite food yet, but God knows what it is. We just ain't ran into it yet. They haven't served it at the restaurant we've been to yet. You gotta, we gotta upgrade. I'm not gonna call no restaurants because I don't want to hate on somebody's favorite restaurants, but you might need to upgrade first before you get to your favorite meal. So there's so many things about ministry, honestly, that bring me such great joy. I gotta be honest. Like, when I have done my good study, a well executed, well crafted message that goes over the way I imagined it, that's honestly, there aren't too many feelings in the world like that. Like, there are times where messages are very impactful and they bless the people repent, get baptized and all of that. But I'm talking about the time where, I don't know about y'all, but I liked what I did. Yeah. Like, y'all ain't had to say amen. I feel good about what I just did. Like, I just wrecked shop, like, and it went just how I thought it was gonna go. Like, those times honestly are are like, that's amazing. That's a feeling like no other. But something away from the spotlight that brings me great joy. Man, there is nothing like sitting down to your scriptures and having God open something up to you. This is for me, like a scripture that I've looked at a million times before, been reading all my life, and I'm studying, and God opened something up to me. It's the most amazing feeling in the world. My kids know I'm crazy because I don't have an office in my house. There's too many people for me to steal a room for the office. So I study at the kitchen table, and sometimes it'll be in the middle of the night, and I have one of my kids will wake up to go to the bathroom, and they'll walk by the kitchen, and I'll be in there jumping around because I'm not a shouter in church. Like I don't like that's not my thing, but when God opens something up in the scriptures to me, like I can't sit down. Like it's just the most amazing feeling in the world because it feels so personal. It feels like God chose to like say something to me, and it isn't even always something I preach. It's just like between me and Him when I'm sitting there with me, my Bible, and a quiet moment. It's a blast.
That's awesome, man. Man, I want to say thank you. First and foremost, man, I really appreciate you, not just for coming on and doing the show with me, man, but you are an inspiration to young ministers, man. I know for a fact that you have helped me understand the call on my life just by watching you sometimes.
Man, I appreciate that.
Yeah, man, no doubt. But man, what we want to do, man, I kind of want to just get into some fun here a little bit, man.
Okay. We've been talking heavy stuff today, so yeah, we can do a little fun.
Yeah, kind of lighten it up just a little bit, man. But I appreciate, man, your transparency, man.
Yeah, man, you got me admitting I want to quit and all kind of stuff. You must be good at your job. You sure you just getting started, man? You better than Oprah, man. We be telling people that.
Hey, man, but that's what we need, man. We need these transparent, real, practical conversations, man. In order to grow by them, man. And that's why the podcast is called Good Ground, because we want those good seeds to go in and to grow. So man, let's jump into this really quick, man.
Okay.
I want to get to know Pastor Dorian just a little bit better, man.
Yes, sir.
Short questions, but I'm gonna get you on one of them.
Okay, right? We'll see.
Look, are you a morning person or a night owl?
Oh, I'm night owl all day.
Okay.
My brain don't start working until after midnight.
Okay. I know you probably don't get to watch a lot of TV. But Martin or the Fresh Prince?
Oh man, Martin, come on, brother.
All right. Hey, Michigan State or U of M?
Oh, U of M, man. Come on, dude.
I thought you would kind of think and stop about that a little bit.
Not even for a second, man. Maize and blue all day.
Android or iPhone?
BlackBerry.
Really?
Now, so I have an iPhone. But my company, my phone is through my company. I had a BlackBerry just until recently. Like the controller, the director of finance, like my BlackBerry broke, and they didn't sell it anymore. And I'm like, I'm going on eBay. I'm gonna find a user. She was like, that's enough of that, Dorian. We're ordering you an iPhone because everybody hated. I was like one of the last people on planet Earth to have a BlackBerry. I love my buttons, and if I could, I'd go back to a BlackBerry all day.
What? Hey man, that's the reason I want to upgrade my iPhone.
Really?
The home button.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Recognition stuff. I don't really like that. That's not me. Would you rather have a rich friend or a loyal friend?
Oh, loyal.
Right
loyal. On. Yeah. I pay my bills, or we'll sleep under the viaduct together. But man, we're gonna ride together. Yes, sir.
I'm with you 100% on that. Here's the one.
Okay.
From Detroit City, man.
Yeah.
The Winans or commission?
Man, why are you trying to do me like this, man?
Come on, man.
Why are you trying to do me this way? Jay, it's not even cool, brother. That's like asking me to pick between my kids, which one I love more.
Hey man, you gotta pick one.
Man, that's tough because I can't just pick one. I can't do that. Marvin Winans is my favorite vocalist of all time. Fred Hammond is my favorite writer, producer of gospel music of all time.
Right.
So funny story though. Funny story. Yeah. So in the organization I grew up in, it was an offshoot of the PAW, Pentecostal Churches of the Apostolic Faith. One of the churches I grew up going to, Keith Staten, one of the original members of Commission, went to that church.
Oh wow.
So I knew I can't claim that I knew him well, but he went to that church. So back then, it was only like 10 of us that was saved. Anybody that didn't go to the kind of church you went to back in them days wasn't saved. So we were kids. As much as we loved the Winans music, Keith Staten went to one of our churches. So we're like, well, commission the ones really saved. We don't know about the Winans, So we like their music, but we don't really know if they really saved. Keith, we know he saved for real. So we gonna roll with commission. When I was a kid, honestly, God is my witness. That's how we used to think.
They catch this, man. Big shout out to both of those groups.
Oh man, the greatest of all time, man. I call him Uncle Mark. I know Bishop Winans. I know him now. I know him well. He's a wonderful person. He's saved.
Yeah.
I can testify to that. But Uncle Marv is what I call him. Marvin Winans is my favorite vocalist, easily. Awesome. But Fred Hammond, some of his songs, his whole albums, you talk about Spirit of David, Inner Court, man, like those are like pages of life, that the writing and the production in those songs, it's just like, that's the soundtrack to my whole sanctification process. So.
Hey man, I was telling a friend of mine the other day, I said, I don't listen to new gospel music. I honestly don't, man. I listen to the same. I listen to that old Fred Hammond.
Yes, sir.
Those old Marvin Sapp albums.
Indeed.
Commission. I still listen to all that old stuff. I mean,
me too.
New happens, somebody slipped it in there on me.
I feel you. I can put it on a little bit, but I can't stick with it. Like, I listen to a song or two for a little while. Like, oh, that's good. And then I'm not compelled to come back to it.
Yeah.
I'll be compelled to just put something old on.
I got you. So, man, once again, man, we really appreciate you being with us today, man. Tell the people how they can get in touch with you. They want to, get in touch with Pastor Dorian. How can they do that?
Sure. And it's funny. I'm getting better at this. This whole pandemic, like, our church wasn't even online before, and that was intentional. Like, we didn't have a single camera in our church.
You cannot tell, man. It's so phenomenal.
Oh, I appreciate that. We've been working hard, and it's going to get even better. But we didn't have a single camera in our church in March before we went online, and that was intentional, because we out of time now. But the self promotion, I'm terrible at it. My Instagram and all of that is awful. Like, I'm not even on Facebook. My Instagram is DorianCast1, but I'd rather you follow our church. Go to our church website, lambchurch.org. Lamb Christian Church on YouTube and Facebook. Go follow us there. Click in. Our Bible studies and Sunday morning services are there. I love if you have some time to come check out a message or a sermon from myself or Bishop Cass.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I told you I get a chance to chime in from time to time, just waiting, because I think you guys start an hour before us.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll just, get everything together early and tune into Lamb, and then get in there in time for Apostle and First Lady. So, man, we really appreciate you. Man, send our best to, man, your dad is the coolest guy. Easy. One of the coolest guys I've ever met, man.
Easy.
Cool, man. Like, preacher or no preacher, this is the coolest dude.
Coolest dude, and it's not an act. It's like that 24/7.
I know your dad was cool. When I saw him walk in church and he had no socks on, he had them loafers on. I said, "Oh yeah, man, Bishop about to take it to another level." Well, man,
yes, sir.
Before we get out of here, man, I have this segment called "Words to Grow By," and I want to just give you the last minute or two just to leave somebody with some inspiration. Just put a seed in the ground, man, for somebody like you who is figuring out the call, figuring out their identity in Christ and moving forward with what God has called them to do, man. Could you just speak to them for the next minute or two?
Sure. Listen, the main thing that I tell people when they ask me about acknowledging the call to the ministry or finding out what God has called you to do, two things, and they're almost the opposite ends of the spectrum. One is very practical. I ask people, how would you know if you were gifted at playing basketball? You wouldn't know until you picked up a basketball and shot it. You can't find out if you're gifted at playing basketball, sitting at the house. Most of us try to sit like we believe finding out our call is a passive activity when it's really an active one. Wow. You will not know that God has graced you for something until you do something and then you see God moves. So if you're feeling stuck and you're trying to see what you want, like what God wants you to do something. That's why I've done everything that there is to do. I tried singing, I tried youth ministry, I tried ushering, I did everything. And you find out when you put your hands to something, God puts his hands to it along with you. And so first things first, you got to get to work, even if it's not something you feel particularly strong about. Secondly, and lastly, there is whatever God showed you, it's never too big. He's talking to you. I think that's the thing I see people comp themselves out of. You might not be able to preach like Apostle and Dr. Vincent, and you may think, well, maybe that's not for me. No, if God showed you that, if he put that in your heart, just because you might not do it like how you see other people doing it, or even if it may seem like there's no way he could be talking to me, it's got to be somebody else. No, he's talking to you, and he will grace you for your particular lane, for your particular call, and for the particular work that you have to do. Ask David about it. He didn't have the same skills as everybody else. He played a harp and used a slingshot, but it got the job done for what God was calling him to do.
Man, and those are words to live by. Pastor D, man, I appreciate you so much, man. My brother, man, please stay safe, stay COVID-free out there, of course.
That's the name of the game. That's the plan.
Preaching the unadulterated truth and the unadulterated word of God. We are behind you. We're praying for you, man. I appreciate you so much, man.
Thank you so much. I genuinely appreciate you having me on, man. Even thinking about me. This is awesome, dude. Like you killing the game early, brother. So I'm honored that you would have me on and have an opportunity to share. Like I said, you got me spilling my guts on here. So but I appreciate it.
No doubt, man. Until we see each other again, man, we'll talk soon, man.
Indeed. Appreciate you, brother.